it does is it supports aviation corridors, basically virtual highways in the sky that reportedly, according to Raytheon, are as narrow as 243 feet. With the towers themselves being 208 feet wide, one is looking at a very strong likelihood of striking the towers under autopilot control, under GPS guidance. There's so much information I'm trying to summarize here in a few sentences, and it would take time. But I was also doing some research on the GPS signal quality on the morning of 9/11. There's a program available through a company called Trimble that allows you to access various archives of GPS data. And when one types in the coordinates for the World Trade Center, they can pull up the GPS signal quality throughout the day. And during the 90-minute period that the attacks were unfolding, it was at that time that the quality was at its highest for the entire day. There were 15 visible satellites to that location, and the satellite geometry was almost at its maximum quality output at that point, which would provide for very precise readings.
What's your take on the white plane that was on the scene of the World Trade Center before the second plane struck and was reported by Diane Sawyer and others? There's some speculation that could possibly be one of the E-4Bs that was taking place in the Global Guardian exercise, this mass Armageddon exercise that wasn't supposed to take place till October, but magically got moved up to coincide with 9/11. We know that the white plane on the scene of the Pentagon, as that attack occurred, is in fact an E-4B. What's your take on this other white plane that we now have tape of in New York City?
It's certainly interesting. I know that aircraft was some type of electronic communications platform. Also, the 9/11 aircraft models and makes were scheduled for installation of data link flight systems, which allowed for entire flight plans to be electronically transmitted to a certain aircraft, either via VHF or satellite signals, that then could be carried out entirely by autopilot. And autopilot performs equal to or even superior to pilot direction of an aircraft. These systems, Honeywell and Rockwell Collins, the aircraft themselves were designed to receive GPS navigation signals and satellite communications of various data link information, including entire flight plans that, as I said, could be uploaded to an aircraft and performed entirely under autopilot control, and supported by GPS satellite signals that provide virtual highways in the sky that are as narrow as 243 feet or 0.02 nautical miles, as described in an aviation publication by Raytheon in 2003.
Well, this seems like it would coincide with the information that, they were following American Airlines Flight 11 for 40 minutes after it supposedly hit the towers. The first plane that struck, they were following it on radar for quite some time, and that anomaly has never been sufficiently examined, in my opinion, or explained. So how is it that they're chasing this plane for 40 minutes after it supposedly struck the towers? Then you see the flight data recorder evidence from the Pentagon, and instead of dive bombing the Pentagon right in the front, it does this amazing maneuver by Hani Hanyour, by all accounts, who was not a good pilot at all. And then it barrels into the Pentagon after clipping, I think, 4 light poles. Miraculously, there's no wing parts. The plane still hits its target so spot on that you don't find a tail section or anything, any large parts of fuselage. There were a few scraps out there, but it is very suspicious to me.
Yeah, referring to the 270-degree diving turn allegedly performed by 77, what this GPS service also supported under autopilot control were turns known as radius to fixed turns, which are basically turns with a continuous radius, and that can be either ascending or descending. This was spelled out in a report presented by Stanford in the late 1990s when they were still developing this GPS signal that was coincidentally turned on 1 year before 9/11. And as I said, supports diving continuous radius turns under autopilot control of any aircraft that's able to receive the signal and has the sufficient autopilot system.
Aidan, currently, which ones are you waiting on? What FOIA responses can we expect to see, hopefully, within the next couple of months? And what do you think are the most important responses that you're going to receive? In other words, which ones do you really want answers to?
Well, I have the lawsuit that I referred to that is pending. One I forgot to mention was the SEC records, the investigative files of 3,000 that were reportedly destroyed in Building 7. I asked the SEC for a bibliography of those. They said no such records were located. I spoke to their FOIA officer, and they said that such records would not be categorized by location, but by other means, and she really didn't elaborate beyond that. Also, others that I forgot to mention, I asked for information from FEMA of what branch of the Department of Defense had an office located in Building 7. They said they had no records for that information. As I said, I'm trying to get various information from the Department of Justice, evidence of wreckage collection, human forensic evidence from these crash scenes in Shanksville and in Arlington, to hopefully put some of these controversies to rest. Also, it records it might describe that's what.
We will be back after this. It's the Infowarrior. Aidan Monaghan is our guest. Final segment coming up. We've done everything FOIA, and folks, you listening out there can do the same thing Aidan does. Put together a letter. Send one to NIST. Send one to the NSA. Send one to the FAA. There's so much you can do. It's the Infowarrior.